Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Tonight, reciters are Jaishi Mataji will be reciting in Sanskrit and Pramod Prabhuji will be reciting in English. Canto 2, Chapter 1, verses 20 to 39. Also at 8:40, Shriya Mataji will be singing Bhajan, Bolia Tomara, and Orpita will be reading the translation of the bhajan. So, Jaishi Mataji, whenever you're ready, can you please start with invocation, Mataji? Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yes, of course. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhag.
Present and future of material time is experienced.
Text 25. Andakoshe shariresmin sapta varana samyute viracha purusho yoso bhagavan dharanashrayaha.
The gigantic universal form of the personality of Godhead within the body of the universal shell, which is covered by sevenfold material elements, is the subject for the Virat conception.
Text 26. Patalametasya hi padamulam patanti parshni prapatere satalam mahatalam vishvashijota gulfo talatalam ve purushasya jange.
Persons who have realized it have studied that the planets known as Patala constitute the bottoms of the feet of the universal Lord, and the heels and the toes are the Rasatala planets. The ankles are the Mahatala planets, and his shanks constitute the Dala planets.
Text 27. Dve januni suttalam vishvamurte urudvayam vittalam chatalam cha mahittalam cha Mahitalam taj jagabhanam mahipate napastalam na visaro grinanti.
The knees of the universal form are the planetary system of the name Sutala, and the two thighs are the Vitala and Atala planetary systems. The hips are Mahitala, and outer space is the depression of his navel.
Text 28. Urastalam jyotirandikamasya griva maharvandanam vejanosya tapovaratim vidurati pumsaha satyam tu sirshani sahasra sishnaha.
The chest of the original personality of the gigantic form is the luminary planetary system. His neck is the Maha planets, and his mouth is the Janas planets, and his forehead is the Tapas planetary system. The topmost planetary system, known as Satyaloka, is the head of he who has 1,000 heads.
Text 29. Indra Tayopavahur Usraha Karnautisha Shrottamamushya Shabdaha Na Satyatashrav Paramasya Nase Granosya Gandho Mukhamaknirindaha.
His arms are the demigods headed by Indra. The 10 directional sides are his ears, and physical sound is his sense of hearing. His nostrils are the two Ashvini Kumaras, and material fragrance is his sense of smell. His mouth is the blazing fire.
Text 30. Tyor Akshini Chakshurabhut Patangaha Pakshmani Vishnur Ahani Upecha Tatbru Vichrimba Parameshti Dishnyam Aposyatalu Rasa Eva Jiva.
The sphere of outer space constitutes his eye pits, and the eyeball is the sun as the power of seeing. His eyelids are both the day and night, and in the movements of his eyebrows, Brahma and similar supreme personalities reside. His palate is the director of water, Varuna, and the juice or essence of everything is his tongue.
Text 31. Chandam Siantas Anantasya Shiro Grinanti Damshtra Yamasneha Kalat Vijani Aso Janonmadakari Chamaya Duranta Sargo Yatabanga Mokshanha.
They say that the Vedic hymns are the cerebral passage of the Lord, and his jaws of teeth are Yama, god of death, who punishes the sinners. The art of affection is his set of teeth, and the most alluring illusory material energy is his smile. This great ocean of material creation is but the casting of his glance over us.
Text 32. Kritotarastotar eva lopo dharmastano dharmapatosya pashtam kastasya metram vrishanau cha mitro kukshi samudra kirayosti sangaha.
Modesty is the upper portion of his lips, hankering is his chin. Religion is the breast of the Lord, and irreligion is his back. Brahmaji, who generates all living beings in the material world, is his genitals, and the Mitra Varunas are his two testicles. The ocean is his waist, and the hills and mountains are the stacks of his bones.
Text 33. Natyosya natyo Tattanuruhani Mahiruha Vishvatano Nipendra Anantavirya Shwasitam Matarishva Gatirvaya Karma Guna Pravaha.
O king, the rivers are the veins of the gigantic body, the trees are the hairs of his body, and the omnipotent air is his breath. The passing ages are his movements, and his activities are the reactions of the three modes of material nature.
Text 34. Ishasya Keshan Viduram Bhuvahan Vasastu Sandhyam Kuruvarya Pumnaha Avyaktamahur Hridayam Manascha Sachantama Sarva Vikara Koshaha.
O best amongst the Gurus, the clouds which carry water are the hairs on his head. The terminations of days or nights are his dress, and the supreme cause of material creation is his intelligence. His mind is the moon, the reservoir of all changes.
Text 35. Vijnana Shakti Mahima Mananti Sarvatmanota Karanam Giridram Ashvasvatari Ushtakacha Nakani Sarve Mrigapa Shavaha Shani Deshe.
The principle of matter, Mahatattva, is the consciousness of the omnipresent Lord, as asserted by the experts, and Rudradeva is his ego. The horse, mule, camel, and elephant are his nails, and wild animals and all quadrupeds are situated in the belt zone of the Lord.
Text 36. Vayam Sitadvya Karanam Vichitram Manur Manisha Manujo Nivasaha Gandharva Vidya Darachara Saraha Swara Smitir Asuranika Viryaha.
Varieties of birds are indications of his masterful artistic sense. Manu, the father of mankind, is the emblem of his standard intelligence, and humanity is his residence. The celestial species of human beings, like the Gandharvas, Vidyaharas, Charanas, and angels, all represent his musical rhythm, and the demoniac soldiers are representations of his wonderful prowess.
Text 37. Brahmananam Shatrapujo Mahatma Vidhururangri Shrita Krishna Varnaha Nana Pitta Pija Kanopaponno Dravyatmaka Karma Vitana Yogaha.
The Virat Purusha's face is the Brahmanas, his arms are the Kshatriyas, his thighs are the Vaishyas, and the Sudras are under the protection of his feet. All the worshipable demigods are also overtaken by him, and it is the duty of everyone to perform sacrifices with feasible goods to appease the Lord.
Text 38. Yanasav Ishvara Vigrahasya Yasa Nivesha Katito Mayate Sandharyate Smin Vapushi Staviste Manas Vabudhya Nayato Stikinchit.
I have thus explained to you the gross material gigantic conception of the personality of Godhead. One who seriously desires liberation concentrates his mind on this form of the Lord, because there is nothing more than this in the material world.
Text 39. Sa Sarvati Vrityanubhuta Sarva Atma Yata na janekshitekaha tam satyamananda nitim pacheta nanyat sajjit yata atmapataha.
One should concentrate his mind upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who alone distributes himself in so many manifestations, just as ordinary persons create thousands of manifestations in dreams. One must concentrate the mind on him, the only all blissful absolute truth. Otherwise, one will be misled and will cause his own degradation. Om Tat Sat.
Hare Krishna, please forgive my mistakes. Hare Krishna, thank you.
Jai, Hare Krishna, thank you very much. I'll just share my screen. Thank you. Prabhu, sorry. What was the Mataji who was reciting the verses?
Jai Shri Mataji,
Oh,
Prabhuji.
Jai Shri, thank you so much, Jai Shri Mataji. Both of you recited really nicely. I'll just share my screen. Just want to check that you can see that, okay?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. So we're going to be reading from, so my name is Krishna Govinda Das. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Guru Maharaj. So we're going to be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1, verse 29, 30, 31, and 32. The chapter is titled The First Steps in God Realization. So verse 29. Indradayo, oh sorry, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Indradayo Bhava Oshraha, Karno Disha Stotra Mamusha Shabda, Nasatya Dasho Paramasya Nase, Kriyano Shaganda Mukamaknidi Idaha. So I'll read the translation and the purport due to the little time that we have. Translation. His arms are the demigods headed by Indra. The 10 directional sights are his ears. A physical sound is his sense of hearing. His nostrils are the 2 Ashwini Kumaras. A material fragrance is his sense of smell. His mouth is the blazing fire. The description of the gigantic form of the personality of Godhead made in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is further explained here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The description in the Bhagavad Gita 11, chapter 11, verse 30 runs as follows. O Vishnu, I see you devouring all people in your blazing mouths and covering all the universe by your immeasurable rays. Scorching the worlds, you are manifest. In that way, Srimad Bhagavatam is the postgraduate study for the student of the Bhagavad Gita. Both of them are the signs of Krishna, the absolute truth, so they are interdependent. The conception of the Virat Purusha, or the gigantic form of the Supreme Lord, is said to include all the dominating demigods, as well as the dominated living beings. Even the minutest part of a living being is controlled by the empowered agency of the Lord. Since the demigods are included in the gigantic form of the Lord, worship of the Lord, whether in his gigantic material conception or in his eternal transcendental form as Lord Shri Krishna, also pleases the demigods and all the other parts and parcels, as much as watering the root of a tree distributes energy to all the tree's other parts. Consequently, for the materialist also, worship of the universal gigantic form of the Lord leads one to the right path. One need not risk being misled by approaching many demigods for fulfillment of different desires. The real entity is the Lord himself, and all others are imaginary, for everything is included in him only. Okay, verse 30. Dyo akshini chakshu abhut patanga Bhakshmani Vishnu Ani Upicha Tadbru Vichayamba Paramesti Dishyam Aposya Talu Rasaiva Jiva. Translation. The sphere or outer space constitutes his eye pits. and the eyeballs is the sun as the power of seeing. His eyelids are both the day and night, and in the movements of his eyebrows, Brahma and similar supreme personalities reside. His palate is the director of water, Varuna, and the juice or essence of everything is his turn. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. To common sense, the description in this verse appears to be somewhat contradictory because sometimes the sun has been described as the eyeball, and sometimes as the outer space sphere. But there is no room for common sense in the injunctions of the Shastras. We must accept the description of the Shastras and concentrate more on the form of the Virat Rupa than on common sense. Common sense is always perfect, whereas the description in the Shastras is always perfect and incomplete. Perfect and complete. If there is any incongruity, it is due to our imperfection and not the Shastras. That is the method of approaching the wisdom. Verse 31. Chandamsi antasya shirogranti damstra yama sneha kalat vijani asojano madakari chamaya duranta sago yatapanga moksha. Translation. They say that the Vedic hymns are the cerebral passage of the Lord, and his jaws of teeth are Yama, god of death, who punishes the sinners. The art of perfection is a set of teeth, and the most alluring illusory energy, material energy, is his smile. This great ocean of material creation is but the casting of his glance over us. Purport, according to Vedic assertion, purport by Srila Prabhupada, according to Vedic assertion, this material creation is a result of the Lord's casting a glance over the material energy, which is described herein as the most alluring illusory energy. The conditioned souls who are lured by such materialism should know that the material contemporary creation is simply an imitation of the reality, and that those who are captivated by such alluring glances the Lord are put in the direction of the controller of sinners called Yamaraj. The Lord smiles affectionately, displaying his teeth. The intelligent person can grasp these truths about the Lord becomes a soul, fully surrendered unto him. I think that was the last verse. Just wanted to double check. Sorry, I think I missed one verse. Okay, verse number 32. Vidorastro taraivalabo dharmastano dharmapatosya prastam kastasya medra vishnu chamitro kakshe samudra garayosti sangha. Translation. Modesty is the upper portion of his lips, hankering is his chin, religion is the breast of the Lord, and irreligion is his back. Brahmaji, who generates all living beings in this material world, is his genitals, and the Mitra Varunas are his two testicles. The ocean is his waist, and the hills and mountains are the stacks of his bones. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Lord is not impersonal, as misconceived by less intelligent thinkers. Rather, he is the Supreme Person, as confirmed in all authentic Vedic literatures. But his personality is different from what we can conceive. It is stated here that Brahmaji acts as his genitals, and that the Mitra Varunas are his two testicles. This means that as a person he is complete with all bodily organs, but they are different types with different potencies. When the Lord is described as impersonal, therefore it should be understood that his personality is not exactly the type of personality found within our imperfect speculation. One can, however, worship the Lord even by seeing the hills and mountains or the ocean and the sky as different parts and parcels of the gigantic body of the Lord. The Virat Purusha, the Virat Rupa as exhibited by Lord Krishna to Arjuna, is a challenge to the unbelievers. So, Okay, I'll recite the introduction prayers. Please to join in. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tatati Swapatantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shiva Shakamitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kakanta Radha Kanta Namustate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwabhanu Sata Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaiva cha Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I offer my humble obeisances to my spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Swami, Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Pastaya Bhutale, Shimante Bhakti Charu Swami Tinamane, and to ISKCON founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Pastaya Bhutale, Shimante Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamane, Namaste Saraswati Devam, Gauravani Pashayane, Nirvishesha Sunyavadi, Pashatya Desatayane. Kindly seek the blessings of my spiritual master and Srila Prabhupada, His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, to allow me to speak on the wonderful topics of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and kindly ask the blessings of all the devotees who are listening to allow me to speak on the wonderful topics of Shri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So just a little background on this particular chapter. So as we know that Parikshit Maharaj has actually been cursed and he's only got 7 days to live. So he's actually renounced everything, he's given up his family, his kingdom, his wealth, all his possessions, his duties as the emperor of the world. And he's completely detached himself. So this is a very good indication of somebody who's completely renounced and detached. And he's actually given this on to his son, King Janamjaya. So as he was going to the banks of the Ganges, he was also accompanied by great personalities like Srila Vyasadeva, Narada Muni, and other personalities like Parashuram. It just so happened Parikshit Maharaj was passed by the arrangement of Sri Krishna himself. And of course, Parikshit Maharaj invited him to come and please speak on the wonderful glories of Krishna. And Parikshit Maharaj asked a few inquisitive questions. Parikshit Maharaj asked Sukadeva Goswami a few inquisitive questions about the Supreme Lord, explain about the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. And Sukadeva Goswami was very pleased by his questions. And he said, you know, you've done a very good thing. You've given up all your possessions, you've given up your duties, you've sacrificed your personal royalty, completely denounce yourself, detach yourself. So this is a good sign in itself that you want to learn and attach yourself to the Supreme Lord by detaching yourself from your material welfare. So he also explained that life is very, Sukadeva Goswami also explains to Parikshit Maharaj, life is very precious, that, you know, one should not waste their time and energy in absorbing themselves in anything which is not in relevance to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You know, life is so rare, very, very precious, and you can die at any moment. And you've actually come at a point in your life that you are going to be dying in 7 days due to the curse of the young boy, because Parikshit Maharaj, it seemed like if he did some heinous crime, but in fact he was innocent in a way. But Krishna arranged this sort of pastime to take place. Because if the Srimad Bhagavatam did not take place at all, then many generations that came after Parikshit Maharaj we wouldn't have been able to relish these beautiful pastimes. So he actually, Sukadeva Goswami also mentions about a great king, King Katanvanga. He only had a moment more to live, and he surrendered and detached himself completely and just surrendered himself to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the duty of all of us in one way or another. I know during the time when we had difficulties over the last few years during COVID, we were becoming more sort of conscious about all those who are passing away, some very close friends, relatives, family members, even great personalities, even devotees within the community. And it made us realize that life is very short. We could die at any moment. And we took that opportunity to absorb ourselves, read more about the wonderful topics of Krishna, chant more, be more concerned about our family, be more concerned about our behavior. We actually should be in that sort of frame of mood all the time, not just at a time when it's very difficult, that we're actually facing challenges in our lives, because every day is like a challenge in our life, and we must try and prepare ourselves. Because at the time of death, whatever state of being that you remember at that time when you quit your body, that state of being you will attain without fail. Or in your next life, you will have that same nature. So if you're thinking of an animal, if you're thinking about some material possessions, if you're thinking about somebody that you love very much, at that very crucial time in your life, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that actually explains wonderful stories where somebody was so attached, a king was so attached to his queen, that in his next life he became a woman, became a princess, but somehow or another, she was also destined to get that relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead because of his, or in this case, her pious deeds. But there's many personalities like that as well. King Bharat, he actually was a great king, great emperor, even though he renounced everything, but he became very attached to a deer. And then at the time of his passing away, because he was thinking about the deer, that he became very affectionate towards. And this next life, he became a deer. But fortunately, because he was a very pious person, as in his previous life, the deer remembered many of the past deeds that he did. So in the deer's next life, he came Jad Bharat, who came across as a very, how do you call it, a very detached person, almost like a tramp-like person, but he was intellectually very superior to many of the sages, many of the brahmanas, and he actually bewildered everybody by explaining so much about the qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to a king who sort of abused him and shouted at him for some misconduct that he had done. But anyway, so here at the time of death is very crucial because also Krishna, he also mentions in the Bhagavad Gita, but for one who at the end of his life cuts his body, remembering me alone, attains my nature of this, there is no doubt. So we must try and focus ourselves, try to always think about Krishna all the time, whether it's in our chanting, whether it's in our offering of our food to the Supreme Lord, whether it's in our day-to-day data worship at home or at the temple, whether we're doing service at home, at the temple, or with our friends, or doing book distribution. So many wonderful activities that Srila Prabhupada has introduced so that we could all participate in some way or another, some form where we can actually engage ourselves in Krishna consciousness. There's unlimited books that we could read. No matter how many times you read the Bhagavad Gita, every time you read it again and again and again, you think, oh my gosh, I didn't recall reading this particular line last time I read it. Even I've personally read it a dozen times, and I keep thinking, wow, this is amazing. I didn't really realize this conclusion or this sort of realization from this particular sentence, which Prabhupada has explained so nicely in the purport. So when King Parikshit was about to quit his life, it was at the end of Dwapara Yuga. So we know that there's 4 yugas. There's Satya Yuga, which represents the golden age. There's Treta Yuga, which represents the silver age. There's Dwapara Yuga, which represents the Bronze Age, and Kali Yuga, which is the age of quarrel and hypocrisy, which is going to last for 420,000 years, of which 5,000 years have passed since Lord Krishna left the planet at the end of Dwapara Yuga. Kali Yuga has come in, and we read about how Parikshit confronts Kali, the rogue king who dared dress himself like a king, and his punishment as well, because he was trying to kill the bull Dhamaraj. kill the by cutting the cow's legs and the bull's legs. Sorry. So here in Kali Yuga, we have a particular process in Kali Yuga where we can actually connect ourselves to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because in this particular chapter, Parikshit Maharaj is actually asking Sukadeva Goswami, you know so many wonderful topics and glories about the Supreme Personality. Please, can you describe more in details what the Supreme Personality of Godhead is? And Sukadeva Goswami is explaining to him that one should sit down, control his posture, control his mind, control his breathing, control everything about him, and focus his mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Parikshit Maharaj is asking him, well, how do I, focus my mind on him? What does he look like? So when I was mentioning earlier on, although in this age, it's very difficult to sit down, control our mind. Our mind is constantly wandering everywhere, wherever the mind wanders to its flickering nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. But Arjuna is saying, the mind is always, wavering all the time. And it's very difficult to control the mind. It's more easier to control the wind than the mind. But of course, Krishna says by constant practice, by controlling the mind. But even then, most of us, well, certainly in my case, I can't sit down for more than 5 minutes or 10 minutes. I become very restless, find it hard to focus. So in this particular age of Kali Yuga, in this age of iron, the remedy for attaining salvation or attaining the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Harinam, 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 Eva Kevalam, Kalonishte, 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 Vagati Anyata. In this age of Kali, in this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, there is no other way than chanting the holy name of the Lord. In the previous yugas, Satya, Treta, Dwapara Yuga, you had the process of meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead for thousands of years. People could control themselves and meditate, or by performing yajnas. They weren't just ordinary yajnas, they were so opulent, they had required so much abundance of wealth, so much abundance of offerings to the Supreme Lord, to Lord Vishnu, so he could be pleased in such a way. And then, of course, in Dwapara Yuga, there's the form of worshipping the Supreme Lord in his deity form, in his Sacha Vigraha form. But in Kali Yuga, we've got this fortunate process of chanting the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So when Sukadeva Goswami goes on to describe about the qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he mentions these qualities of the Vishvarupa form of the Lord, and it's not even the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sorry, beg your pardon, I'll rephrase that. Of course, it is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but it's not his original spiritual identity, but it's the mature manifestation of the Supreme Lord. Even if there's that particular verse, because the effulgence of the Supreme Brahman, or rather the effulgence of this Virat Purusha form, is so powerful, so effulgent, that you need spiritual eyes to actually see this universal form. So in the Bhagavad Gita, it mentions that even if hundreds and thousands of suns were to rise to the sky simultaneously, that radiance may resemble the effulgence of that Supreme Person. That Supreme Person is referring to the Virat Purusha form. So you can see how powerful this Virat Purusha form is, but this is only a partial energy of the Supreme Lord himself. So if we go on to describe about the qualities or the different parts of the Supreme Lord and its representations in the form of different material manifestations or in the form of the demigods. Now, there is another chapter in the Bhagavad Gita. Does anybody know which chapter that is, that refers to the universal form?
Is it chapter 11, Prabhuji?
Yes, that's
Chapter
right.
11.
That's right. Is that Jyoti Mataji?
Thank you.
Yeah, it's chapter 11. So we'll discuss a little bit from a couple of verses from chapter 11 in a little while. So first of all, in this particular verse, chapter, just got to go back one. So this particular chapter that we were reading earlier on, this gigantic manifestation of the phenomenal material world as a whole is the personal body of the absolute truth, wherein the universal resultant past, present, and future, which your time is experience. So it's explaining that this gigantic manifestation represents the phenomenal material world, as we understand that when Lord Vishnu is actually lying in the causal ocean, he's breathing, from his breathing, from the pores of his skin are all these little bubbles, which represents the universe, and each bubble represents the universe, and each of these universes has a universal form itself. So when we refer to the 10 directions, does anybody know what the 10 directions refer to? Okay, so the 10 directions, we all know about north, east, south, and west. So the 10 directions are actually the same representations of these particular directions. But in this case, where we have between north and east, we have northeast. Between east and south, we have southeast and southwest and northwest. So those are 8 of the directions. Now, the other 2 directions, does anybody know what the 2 directions are?
Is it above and below?
Yes, that's right. So the above represents above the Supreme Personality of God's head, and below represents below his lotus feet. So normally when we do yajnas, you've probably seen the pujari or the purohit doing this. So what he's actually doing is clearing all the obstacles in these 10 directions, as I mentioned, north, northeast, east, so forth, all the way around in 8 directions. Then he does one above and flicks his finger for one below. That's actually representing above the head and below the head. So these 10 directions, when you're actually performing a yajna, you want to have an auspicious environment to free any obstacles that are within the arena of the yajna itself. So normally the Purohit actually says Om Shivaya Fat, remove all obstacles by clapping his hands, then he starts clicking in 8 directions around him, and then one above and one below. So also in this gigantic form, it represents the different planetary systems. Now, I think I went somewhere here. Okay. I'll just quickly describe this. So because the gigantic form represents the different parts of the body of the Supreme Lord, going from his feet represents the Patala planets, which is the bottom of the lotus feet of the Lord. So first of all, although it mentions about his arms and demigods headed by Indra, I'm just going to go from the bottom of the lotus feet of the Lord. The bottom of the lotus feet of the Lord represents the Patala planets. The hails and toes represent or is called the Rasatala planets. The Mahatala planets represent his ankles. The Talatala planets represent his shanks. The Sutala planets represent his knees. The Tala and Vitala planets represent the 2 thighs. The Mahatala, depression of the navel. The luminary planet represents his chest. And the Maha planet represents his neck. The Janas planets represents his mouth. The Tapas planets represents his forehead. And Satyaloka represents his heads, which consists of thousands and thousands of heads. I believe I got it from this verse here. Okay. You'll have to forgive me. I wrote this down from one of the verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam. But anyway, those 14 planetary systems represents the different bodies and limbs of the Supreme Lord. So to start off with, Krishna, or rather Sukadeva Goswami is explaining that the arms are represented, or the arms are represented by the demigods, or headed by Indra himself. Then you've got the 10 directional sides, which are his ears. And then you've got the physical sound, which is the sense of his hearing. Then you've got his 2 nostrils, which are the 2 Ashwini Kumaras. The Ashwini Kumaras, as you know, are the famous Kumaras. The Arjuna trees, which Krishna knocked down in the Damodar Leela pastime. The material fragrance is a sense of smell. And this mouth is like a blazing fire. Now, from the Bhagavad Gita, as I mentioned, there's a particular verse there. There's a particular verse from the Bhagavad Gita. It's actually talking about his mouth is like a blazing fire. When Arjuna sees his universal form, he's actually seeing that blazing fire. And that blazing fire represents the material manifestation as well. Because we're all conditioned in this cycle of birth and death, this wheel of samsara. So the spiritual master is actually freeing us from this blazing fire of birth and death. That's why when we recite the prayers, Gaurashtika prayers, the first prayer is Samsara Dava, Nalalita Loka, Janaya Karunya, Kanaganatvam, Bhaktasya Kalyana, Kananavasha, Mande Garoshi, Charanaravinda. We offer our respectful obeisances to our spiritual master who's tried to free us from this blazing fire of material existence by giving us this bhakti. Now, also further on, I'm going to explain a little bit about a lot of the personalities. A lot of people, they actually think that the Supreme Lord or this universal form is impersonal. So from the Bhagavad Gita, from chapter 7, verse 24, it mentions intelligent men who do not know me perfectly think that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, was impersonal before and have now assumed this personality. Due to their small knowledge, they do not know my high nature, which is imperishable and supreme. So when we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam verses earlier on, verse number 32 mentioned about this impersonal feature of the Lord, that people, impersonalists, argue that the Supreme Lord has no form. But here, Krishna specifically says, intelligent men who do not know me perfectly, that I, Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, was impersonal before, now has assumed this personality. Of course, the Supreme Lord is always there, the past, present, and future, but the universal form is just a manifestation of his material energy self. Now, just going back onto the verse that we were reading. Okay, now the second verse on that particular verses that we were reading today, the sphere of outer space, or rather his eye pits, from the material manifestation, when you see the sphere of the outer space, are considered to be his eye pits, his eyeball. The sun has the power of seeing. Now, further on, Srila Prabhupada actually mentions that there is sometimes misunderstanding. Some people say that the eyeball represents the sun or his light itself. Somewhat contradictory, because sometimes the sun has been described as the eyeball, sometimes as the outer space sphere. So his eyeball is also the sun of power of seeing, but also, like here, it says that it's considered to be the outer space sphere. But at the same time, Prabhupada actually mentions that we should not try and, try and think that the scriptures are imperfect. They have some contradictory descriptions about who Krishna is. There are so many descriptions. Because God is unlimited, his description is also limited. His pastimes is limited. The way he looks, even just like in the verse from the Bhagavad Gita, thousands of his arms are everywhere, his legs are everywhere, his arms are everywhere. So this universal form, he has thousands of eyes, thousands of mouths, thousands of heads. So, something could be representing him in one form, something else could be representing him in some other form. And Prabhupada says that common sense is always imperfect, because sometimes common sense is based on the 4 imperfections within the human society itself. The tendency to make mistakes, we are under illusion, we've been cheated, so forth. So we can always so feel that sometimes there's contradiction between this particular verse and that particular verse, or this description, another description. And this Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, because our minds are so limited, our intelligence is so limited, there's something that we cannot understand fully. So sometimes we got to accept what the acharyas have said in their scriptures. We could go on describing certain things in a certain way, but unfortunately, we'll never come to a conclusion unless we get the authority, or rather the scriptures from a spiritual authority. Going on, his eyelids represent both day and night. As you can see, when we close and open our eyelids, we can see daylight and darkness at the time. The movements are his eyebrows, were represented by Brahma and similar personalities. His palate is the director of water, Varuna, and the juice of everything is also represented as the juice of essence of everything in his tongue. So when we taste something, we're always tasting all the different 4 types of minds within us. Chatu, Vida, Shi, Bhagavad, Prasada. There's 4 types of things that we're always tasting within ourselves. A couple of things I wanted to say quickly. The Vedic hymns are the cerebral passage of the Lord. The jaws of teeth are Yama, the god of death. And actually, this is what I wanted to explain about. So from the Bhagavad Gita, it actually mentions in that particular verse, when Arjuna is actually seen as the Supreme Personality of God's universal form, he says that all the sons of Dhritarashtra, along with their allied kings and Bhishma, Drona, Karna, and our chief soldiers also, were rushing into your fearful mouths. Some I see trapped with heads smashed between your teeth. So you can see the teeth can be used as representation of the smile, but it could also represent the sharp teeth of a lion, which is there to kill its prey. So here, Arjuna is actually seeing all these people from the Kuru dynasty. Their heads have been smashed between the lotus teeth of the Supreme Lord. So it actually explains that these jaws are also the representations of Yama, the god of death, who punishes the sinners. The art of perfection is a set of teeth, and most alluring illusory material energy is a smile. Because a smile, when we see somebody with a smile, we get attracted by their smile. Sometimes we don't know there could be a conceiving smile, but the Supreme Lord is always pleasant in every way in his smile. But his smile can also cause allurement to his material energy as well in the form of Maya. This great ocean of material creation is but the casting, is glanced over us. So as I mentioned earlier on, when the actual bubbles coming from the pores of a skin, and they sort of permeate the whole universe, then Krishna, by his glance, Lord Vishnu, by his glance, he meditates on each of them. From there, the material manifestation is created within each of the bubbles itself. And just to finish off, modesty is his upper portion of his lips. The hankering is his chin. The religion is the breast of the Lord, and the religion is his back. Brahmaji, who generates all living beings in the material world. So in this way, Parikshit Maharaj is trying to focus on what Sukadeva Goswami is telling him, how to focus his mind on the Supreme Lord. By the Supreme Lord's different body parts, it represents by these different variation of descriptions described here in the last few verses. It tries to meditate on the Supreme Lord in this way, because sometimes to meditate on the Lord, sometimes if we don't know what the Supreme Lord looks like, then at least we can externally meditate on the Supreme Lord through these descriptions. And it goes on to mention about his genitals, the Merit Varunas and our 2 testicles, the ocean in his waist, and the hills and mountains are the stick of his bones. And here, furthermore, Srila Prabhupada explains that, you must not think that the universal form is just imaginary. It's you can't think of it as something impersonal. Krishna has a form. He has all the different body parts, like as I mentioned down here, the bones, his testicles, his genitals, they're all describing all the parts of a body. So it's not like an imaginary light or imaginary sort of invisible object or something like that. He is the Virat Purusha form, and he's exhibited in different forms, like in the form of a body itself. Okay, that's I think that comes to a conclusion now. There's a few more things I wanted to talk about, but I'll have to stop there because I believe somebody's going to be singing a bhajan for Sunday evening. Is that right? Please forgive me for any mistakes. If there's any comments or questions, do let me know.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for a wonderful class, Prabhuji. My Dhanavad Pranam. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhuji, we do have the bhajan. So shall I announce their names now?
Yes, please do so, yeah?
Okay,
And
cool.
do you want to share the screen as well for
I
the
think
song?
Jyoti Mataji will be doing that. Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, sure, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. So
Hare
Prabhuji, we
Krishna,
have
everyone. Sorry.
no problem, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. So Prabhuji, we've got Shriya Mataji who will be singing the bhajan. But before she sings the bhajan, Bhuliya Tumare, we've got Orpita who will be doing the English recitation, and then Shriya Mataji can sing the bhajan. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jyoti Mataji, you're okay to share, right? Thank you, Mataji. Jyoti Mataji, Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, can you still hear me? Hare Krishna.
Yeah, we can still hear you.
Okay.
Somebody was sharing the screen a little earlier. Do you know what song it is that I can share it?
Yes, Prabhuji, I've just sent in the chat. Oh, we've got Jyoti Mataji. Haribol. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mataji. Orpita, when you're ready, thank you.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. I forsook you, O Lord, and came to this world of pain and sorrow. Now I submit my tale of woe at your lotus feet. While still in the unbearable fetters of my mother's womb, I saw you before me. You revealed yourself but briefly, and then abandoned this poor servant of yours. At that moment, I swore to worship you after taking birth, but birth came, and with it the network of worldly illusion which robbed me of all good sense. As a fondled son in the lap of relatives, I passed my time smiling and laughing. My parents' affection helped me to forget the pangs of birth, and I thought the world was very nice. Day by day I grew, and soon began playing with other boys. Shortly my powers of understanding emerged. I read and studied my lessons incessantly. Traveling from place to place. Proud of my education, I grew wealthy and maintained my family with undivided attention. O Lord Hari, I forgot you. Now, in old age, Bhakti Vinoda is sad. He weeps. I failed to worship you, O Lord, and instead passed my life in vain. What will my fate be now? Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. I'll be singing Bhakti Vinod Thakur's song, Bhuliya Tumare, which means forgetting you. भूलिया तुम्हारे संसारे आसिया, पे नानाविध व्यथा। भूलिया तुम्हारे संसारे आसिया, पे नानाविध व्यथा। तुम्हार चरणे आसियाची आमी, बोलिब दुखेर कथा। बोलिया तुम्हारे संसारे आसिया, पे नानाविध व्यथा। जननी जठरे चिला में जखोना, विषम बंधन पाशे। एक बार प्रभु देखा दिया मोरे, एक बार प्रभु देखा दिया मोरे, वाचिले दिन दासे, वांचिले दिन दासे। बोलिया तुम्हारे संसार अधिया, पे नानाविध व्यथा। ताको नवा भीनु जन्म पाइया, करिब भजन तवा। जन्म होइलो पादी माया जाले, जन्म होइलो पादी माया जाले, न होइलो जान लवा, न होइलो जान लवा। बोलिया तुम्हारे संसार अधिया, पे नानाविध व्यथा। आदरेर चेले स्वजेनर कोले, हासिया कातानु काल। जनक जननी स्नेहते भूलिया, जनक जननी स्नेहते भूलिया, संसार लागिलो भालो, संसार लागिलो भालो। भूलिया तुम्हारे संसारे अधिया, पे नानाविध व्यथा। क्रमे दिन दिन बालक होइया, भेलिनो बालक सहा। आरा किछु दिने जनान उपिलो, आरा किछु दिने जनान उपजिलो, पाठ पढ़िया हर आहा, पाठ पढ़िया हर आहा। विद्यार गौरवे भ्रमी देशे देशे, धन उपार्जन कोरी। स्वजन पालन कोरी एक माने, स्वजन पालन कोरी एक माने। भूलिनु तुम्हारे हरि, भूलिनु तुम्हारे हरि। भारत खेखोन भक्ति विनोद, कांडिया काटर आती। ना भजिया तोरे दिन व्रत गेलो, ना भजिया तोरे दिन व्रत गेलो। एठो न की हबे गति, एखो न की हबे गति। भूलिया तुम्हारे संसार आसिया, पे नानाविध व्यथा। तुम्हार शरण आसियाची आमी, तुम्हार शरण आसियाची आमी। वांचिले दिन दशा, बोलिया तुम्हारे संसार असिया पे नाना विध व्यथा. Hare Krishna.
Haribol Mataji, beautiful singing. Haribol.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
Very nice singing, Shriya Mataji. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much. And Orpita, very nice recitation. Wonderful. So is Prabhuji, are you still with us, Prabhuji?
I am, yeah. Sriji
Hare
Kishore Mataji.
Krishna. Thank
Yeah,
you. So the bhajan, did you enjoy the bhajan?
Yeah, I did actually. I didn't realize I was on mute when I sort of congratulated them. So thank you so much for your Mataji. It was sung so beautifully. And to Arpita Devi as well. Recitation, very nice. It's nice that you're choosing different songs every week, songs which we're not very familiar with when we normally sing at the temple as well. So it's really good, showing the diversity of all the wonderful Vaishnavacharya songs as well. So really, thank you so much, Sriji Kishore Mataji, engaging everybody in this particular service as well. And I just wanted to say, have a wonderful Christmas, everyone, and a wonderful Happy New Year, and hope to see all of you soon at Bhaktivedanta Manor soon, or at least a temple. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the wonderful class and also the encouragement you're giving to all the singers, the bhajan singers. Very nice. Thank you. And we wish you a very happy Christmas as well and a happy New Year.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare
Thank you for the beautiful
Krishna.
class,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Thank you so
Krishna
much.
Prabhuji.
Thank you for the
Hare
beautiful
Krishna.
class.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Shall we have our Vaishnava break now?
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha
Patrubyascha kripa sindhubhyascha
एव च पतितानां
पावनेभ्यो
वैष्णवेभ्यो
वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.